What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? Live from Hawaii. Beautiful day. A little windy, actually, right now. But before I went to dinner, I said, you know what? Let's record a little football podcast. This is obviously a huge time of year. People getting cut, people trimming down their roster. Howie Roseman made 3 trades today on Hawaii time. Now, granted, it is, as of recording this, it's 9 o'clock, 9:15 in Philadelphia. So it's only 3 o'clock here. He made 3 trades in one day. Have a quick thought on that. Something when it comes to quarterback play that will never change when it comes to Caleb Williams, when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, and then just a couple big picture takes on the preseason. But before we dive into any football, I got to tell you about my friends. I got to tell you about my partners. The official ticketing app of this podcast, GameTime. What do you want to do? Do you want to go to an event? We got football season is here. I say it all the time. Even if you didn't go to one of these schools, if you want to go to one of these big college games, in the Big Ten, in the ACC, obviously the SEC sometime this fall, they got you covered. Any NFL game, it doesn't get any easier to use. Concerts, comedy shows, you name it. Just download that app, use it. I've been using it for years. Any single event that you want to go to, they have you covered. So I'm telling you right now, Game Time, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with my friends. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN, JOHN, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. Guaranteed. I want to chime in on Howie really quick. He made 3 trades a day. I know he's made the John Mechie trade. There's probably a trade I'm missing. I mean, there's a chance he's made 5 or 6 trades this preseason. And I think the difference in Howie than the majority of these organizations is Howie is able to take a big picture view of his roster. Why? Because he's not a coach. And so many coaches right now in the NFL have final say over their roster. And you can say, obviously, you get emotional about your starters, the guys you draft. You'd be shocked how often their position coaches, which essentially on an NFL team, like for Howie, his scouts, those are his people. That's his staff. The assistant coaching staff is the head coach's people. It's why some organizations, the Niners, for example, their assistant coaches have a ton of juice in the draft. Why? Kyle's the boss. So if Kyle wants to draft a guy, he is heavily influenced not by the scouting staff, but by his coaching staff. Well, Howie's in charge. Howie's in charge of the roster. Now, come Sunday, Howie's not calling the plays. He's not telling Vic Fangio or whoever his offensive coordinator specific plays to call. But during this period of time, no one has more say currently in the NFL in terms of a GM or a head coach than Howie Roseman. And these are the type moves when you're not emotional about your roster. Now, some of them, they aren't like consequential. You're talking about 7th round picks for backups, but they are moves that a lot of coaches won't necessarily make, especially when you're trading guys out because a position coach goes, I really love that guy. I've spent the last month and a half in OTAs or the last couple of years. That's my guy. Well, this is big business. No one gives a shit. So if he's not going to play on Sundays, see you later. And you watch the Cowboys documentary, Jimmy Johnson, pretty rare coach who could balance them both. He had the ability to be pretty cutthroat, but also be very close with his teams. There's a small percentage of coaches in the history of the league that can do it. Obviously, Bill Walsh was elite at it. Belichick for a long period of time. And he's pretty freaking good at it. Most coaches get very emotionally tied to their players. And this is the time of year where it's like, what are we talking about? When you're talking about backups, when you're talking about rotational special teams players, this is the time to operate like baseball, where there's no emotional, they're all just widgets on a sheet. We're not talking about trading impact players on the field. And I don't think it's by happenstance or by coincidence that Howie has been running circles around the majority of the league now for several years. And you compare the Eagles to the Cowboys, which is, Jerry becoming the owner, the GM, the pseudo coach. He's very emotionally tied to everything. And he's obviously like the director. And he's talked about this in that documentary when it comes to he likes the drama of it all. He's just too in the weeds. He's just too close to the sun. Howie has this great balance of obviously he's very close to his star players, but if you're not like a high impact guy at any moment, and this goes for coaching staff, goes for scouting staff, trust me, I've been there, you can be replaced in a New York minute, and that benefits the team. And you hear these GMs talk about all the time that are like, I do what's in the best interest of the organization. Bullshit. Because how often they draft a guy in the second round, in the third round, and that guy gets chance after chance after chance. Like, what are we doing? Like, why are we wasting time here? And that does not fly in Philadelphia. And one of their greatest strengths is having the GM run the roster is the emotional separation from the players. Yeah, I draft you in the fourth round. I don't care. You're not good enough. See you later. And that's why when you watch them play over the last several years, when it works, it looks as good as any. It's why they've been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, why they just won the last one. They're technically not favored. Somehow the Bills and the Ravens, who have never beat the Chiefs, are currently favored to win the Super Bowl. But why the Eagles are the NFC, favorite. But I think that's a huge, huge advantage. And let's face it, most of these GMs in the NFL don't have as much juice as you think they do just by their title. Why? Because the coach makes double or triple what they make. And it's just basic economics. When one guy makes $12 million and the other guy makes $4 million, when we're complaining and we're arguing, who do you think is going to have final say when they both look at the owner? The owner's going to go with the guy he's paying most money. And I don't know how much Howie makes relative to Sirianni, and there's a chance it's because of Sirianni's job title. Even if Howie were to make $10 million a year, the highest paid GM, maybe Sirianni makes 11, but we know who's in charge. And Sirianni's no dummy. He lets Howie do that. And he doesn't argue about it because he knows it works. And I think it's a huge, huge advantage when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. And you know why? I think we'd all be stunned. It would take a rash of injuries for them not to be in the NFC Championship game. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets, Saturdays just got way more fun. College football is back, baby. Think you know the game? Put your college football knowledge to the test with DraftKings Sportsbook and turn your picks into big payouts. Live betting during the game, rivalry week odds boosts, and so much more. DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. Here's the thing. There is no bigger game than Saturday morning. Texas, Ohio State. I understand Arch has never started a big game. Played a couple last year, but never anything like this. Ohio State lost a ton of guys to the draft. I think this Texas team, if Arch lives up to the hype, poised to win an Natty, I'm taking Texas. I know it's at the shoe. I know it's a tough environment. I just think, as Earl Woods used to tell Tiger Woods, let the legend grow. That's what I would tell Arch Manning. Go win this game, cover that spread, money line, let the legend grow. And here's something special for first-timers, new customers. Bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code John. That's code John for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Another thing that I just want to get out there, because I was thinking about this when I was flying here to Hawaii. I downloaded the Chiefs-Bears game because I didn't watch it live on Friday night, and I saw a bunch of people have different takes, and whether Caleb played well, whether he didn't, and then I saw Ben Johnson's quote of basically like calling the offensive execution on the first couple drives a complete embarrassment. And every industry changes over the course of time, right? Amazon didn't exist 20 years ago in the nature exists now. Why? Because they were selling books, and now they literally sell everything that's delivered right to your door. But one thing that can't be disputed, when you order something off Amazon, it arrives within 12, 24 hours. Somehow my dumbass orders things that like take 6 days, but for my wife's really good at this. She presses a button and the thing's there in half a day. It's why they run circles around every single company in America. And like, business is still pretty simple. Like, can you do something for me that I want? Do you provide a service that I'm willing to pay for? And Amazon service, let's just be real, is as good as it gets. If you don't like it, you send it back, you press a button. It doesn't get any easier. They are so consumer friendly. And I think sometimes quarterback play, like the NFL is a lot different than it was 20, 25 years ago, right? The game, I've been watching some of that Cowboys documentary. I mean, the 49ers and Cowboys going at it, they were playing with slower, bigger, two down middle linebackers, Ken Norton Jr., Gary Plummer. The Cowboys played the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl with Greg Lloyd. I mean, these are 260-pound linebackers that aren't great space players, but if you run the ball, between the tackles, they will meet whoever you are sending and fucking wreck their world. Those guys don't exist anymore, right? The badass middle linebackers are Fred Warner, who would have been considered small 25, 30 years ago in that era. Well, things changed. But at the end of the day, football still has a lot of similarities that it did back then. Can you be an efficient offense? Can you generate touchdowns in the red zone? Can you convert first downs more often than not? Can you get off the field on defense in the red zone? Are you a good third down defense? Do you have a good pass rush? Are you a good tackling team? Are you a well-coached team? Do you have high-level competitors? Like, there are a lot of similarities. And while spread offense quarterbacks are looked upon differently than they were back in the day, and I would say teams are much more open-minded when it comes to evaluating those players. Look at the best quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. Where does he come from? Spread offense, Texas Tech. I remember Andy Reid told me, I was like, was that weird for you trying to evaluate this guy? You have West Coast roots, which is like prototypical old school NFL under center with two running backs, a tight end, two wide receivers to this guy running 5 wide receiver sets in college. He said, no, not at all. Actually, it made it easier. I just siphoned the passes that he threw behind the line of scrimmage because those had little to no value in my evaluation of the player. But if he threw it 50 times a game and I removed those 10 passes, it was still 40 passes that I got to evaluate. So back in the day when there's a quarterback coming out, maybe they got 20, 22 attempts every single game in college. Now I get to watch a guy, even if he had 50, 55 attempts and only 80% of them matter to me, that's still 20, 30% more than I used to be able to evaluate guys in the 90s. I was like, damn, I never thought of it that way. And one thing that will never change with quarterback play in the NFL that is a lot different than college is you have to get rid of the football. Because when you were a great player in college, you can play make, you can ad lib, you can do shit that your opponents cannot do. There was a reason Johnny Manziel beat Nick Saban in the middle of his dynasty, because in college, you can just play make and you can do things. That doesn't translate to the NFL. It has a couple times. Russell Wilson, I would say, is an outlier player. He was a playmaking guy outside the tackle box. That's what made him up. I mean, it's gotten weird at the end, but a potential future Hall of Famer. And for a stretch of 6 or 7 years, one of the best players in the NFL. He was truly one of the great playmakers in the NFL. Deshaun Watson, for about 2.5 seasons, was very similar. He would destroy you ad-libbing on the fly, making plays outside the pocket. Both those guys held on to the ball way too long. They drove offensive coordinators nuts because 2-step, 3-step, get rid of the ball. They did not do that. They could not do that, but they were so great at their playmaking ability, they made Pro Bowls. And a guy like Russell Wilson, went to the Super Bowl twice. Caleb Williams, I'll promise you this. I give Caleb Williams 8 to 10 games to prove to Ben Johnson that this can work. Because Middlekauff, you're what? We have seen this time and time again in this modern day NFL. You get to going into year 3 to prove you can play, or they will get rid of you. Trey Lance, they traded 3 first-round picks for the guy, and he was on a different team week 1, year 3. Anthony Richardson, honestly, by the time you're listening to this, could be on another team. He was given 2 seasons. Now, Ben Johnson had nothing to do with Caleb his rookie season. But this year, if I was a betting man, if it goes well, obviously he's going to be the quarterback there for a while. But if it doesn't, he's not getting some multi-year leash. That is not the way it works. And Ben Johnson said the other day, that was basically an embarrassment. That's a joke. I thought we were past this. And every single time he talks about the backup quarterback, and listen, I'm not acting like Tyson Bagent is the next stud player. But I know this, the head coach likes him a lot. Talks about him glowingly. And then when you watch him play, you know what he does? He gets rid of the ball quickly. You know what Caleb's problem is? And this is what made him a great prospect in college, at least too many, especially in the media, that kind of, give each other a reach around when you make plays. And listen, I get excited for this too. When you kind of run around and make plays. In the NFL, that doesn't consistently work. especially when your head coach, and this is Shedeur Sanders' problem. Like you watch Shedeur in college, it's awesome. He is an instinctive player and he can make a lot of plays. But in the construct of an NFL offense, Kevin Stefanski, the Shanahans, they like everything to be timed to the second. Couple steps, I want you the ball out of your hand because I'm designing the play. I'm in charge. And unless you're Russell Wilson in his prime, you're not good enough to figure this shit out just on your own. And Shedeur definitely isn't the physical talent of Caleb Williams. But those guys' ad-lib ability is like, it's why Shedeur Sanders is the fourth string quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. People are like, oh, he's way better than Dillon Gabriel. And listen, I thought he was a better prospect than Dillon Gabriel. But when you've watched Dillon Gabriel in the 2 games that he's played in the preseason, the ball's in his hands when he's under center, and pretty quickly it's out of his hands. You know who likes that? The head coach. You know who's calling plays in most of these places? The head coach. Ben Johnson, the offense is his baby. And you watch Caleb Williams, there is no disputing his arm talent. And I'm a sucker for arm talent. I like it. Just like the next guy. I come from Andy Reid. We like big arms. But I watched Patrick Mahomes in that game. And listen, I'm not comparing Patrick Mahomes to Caleb Williams. That wouldn't be fair to Caleb. Patrick Mahomes is already probably a top 5 quarterback of all time. I would say that Patrick has basically mastered the position because his playmaking is elite. But what he's great at and what makes him an all-time great is on 3rd and 6, when you need those 7 yards and the play is called and is executed, that ball will be out of his hands on the guy's hand like that. There is no, I'm just going to run out of a pocket that doesn't need to be run out of. You cannot play offense at the highest level and be a good player when you do that. And you watch Shedeur, obviously, he's a rookie. And listen, he's a 5th-round pick. But that's the reason that he's not above Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel, the play's called, he'll run it, and the ball's out of his hands quickly. And listen, sometimes people in the front office and the scouting community, we argue with coaching staffs over that. But they value that to the highest degree. And when I watch Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, the offense, no different than Kyle, no different than Sean Payton, no different than some of these highly, tightly wound coaches. The one thing, like I didn't know Ben Johnson that well when he was the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. Why? He talked once a week. Dan Campbell was truly the voice of the team. And honestly, I thought Ben Johnson was kind of reserved. One thing I've really seen his personality being the head coach, like he's kind of a hard ass. Like he actually has some Dan Campbell in him. Kind of has a little Kyle Shanahan into him. Like I was like, damn, he's kind of grown on me. But one thing that will not fly is when the play is called. And even he said this the other day after the game against the Chiefs when they asked him like that sack that happened to Caleb. Like, what do you think? He's like, well, he had the ball in his hands for 5 seconds. Clearly, that was on him. I might be screwing up the quote a little bit, but ultimately, the point is this. It's not going to fly holding on to the football. It 100% will not be tolerated there. And if the Bears do not do well offensively, and if it looks, and I'm not trying to just overreact purely because they're playing the Chiefs, who are, I don't know, dominated the league for 7 straight years and are a defensive team. That's a tough matchup. Caleb should get his ass kicked. But when they're playing other teams, especially week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings, Brian Flores, who's one of the better defensive coordinators. And if he's holding that ball, Sam Darnold did this last year, holding on to that thing, it ain't going to work. And anyone saying that it will is either disingenuous about it because they have like an agenda and they want to be proven right. I would have drafted Caleb Williams number 1 overall too. So I'm not like anti-Caleb here. I don't blame them at all for picking him. Though it's their jobs to get it right, not to have like the media and people that talk about football give them a thumbs up. So like you watch Jaden Daniels, the ball's out of his hands when it needs to be out of his hands. You watch Caleb, sometimes it is and sometimes it is not. And we're going to find out, can that be taught or not? Because we know Ben Johnson is good at coaching offense and we know his offense works and we know they have a really good offensive line. We know they have good offensive pieces. But when you hold on to the football and take sacks, one thing I think that aged poorly is we all thought that Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks were like idiots for getting down on Russell. When behind the scenes, they kept saying like, not all these sacks are on our offensive line. Our offensive line doesn't suck as much as you guys think. It's hard to run an offense with this little guy. And it was always like, shut up, Pete. You got Russell Wilson. And looking back, I can imagine that was a little frustrating, even though there were times like, well, he's so good, you got to deal with it, and you guys were winning. But when you don't win, and toward the end, they weren't winning as much, so like, Russell, you're done. See you. And this is Ben Johnson didn't draft this guy. So you hold on to that football, and that offense doesn't work, see you later. So that's just something to keep. I give it till Halloween. If it's not going well, I mean, it would be like he's not getting all year to start if it's going shitty. If it's going well, yeah, 100%. But they gave that contract. The more and more I thought about them giving the contract to the backup, is like, you don't fuck with the quarterback. Even if you're, obviously Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles isn't doing anything Ben Johnson, especially these 6 months, that doesn't want to happen. But specifically with the quarterback, even in places where the GM has a lot of juice, they will lean on their coaching staff when it comes to that position. That head coach loves that backup quarterback because they did not need to give him a contract. And they did that. One, I mean, he's an asset. He's a good player, but also like we need a contingency plan if this gets weird. I know everyone's throwing us a parade, and I'm guilty of this too for that one drive he had against the Bills playing the twos with, heavy legs. How about when they played the Chiefs when they tried? It was a fucking embarrassment.
A wingman never leaves your side. They've got your six, come what may. Folds of Honor proudly provides the same unwavering support for families of American heroes. A Folds of Honor wingman donates $13 a month, which becomes life-changing scholarships for the spouses, sons, and daughters of fallen or disabled U.S. service members and first responders. Join their ranks today as a wingman. More than 3,000 scholarships have been made possible by wingman donors, preserving legacies and opening doors for the next generation. Your $13 monthly gift is profoundly symbolic. 13 represents the number of times a flag is folded before given to grieving families of American heroes. Each fold a symbol of sacrifice, of honor, of remembrance. Let's lock arms around these families and turn the symbol into something more. Education, opportunity, and hope. Become a wingman today at foldsofhonor.org.
A couple other quick things. The preseason just needs to go away. Let's be real. The preseason used to be kind of entertaining because it would accelerate as the weeks went on. Like the first week, your starters would get a couple series. Second week, your starters would get a quarter. Third week, they would get a half. So when there were 4 preseason games, at least you would chime in, know you were getting that. Every team did it. It was like universally, no one did the McVay where no one plays. Now it feels like everyone does it. And no one takes the preseason seriously. Now, I'm not naive enough. I get it. You sell 20 games to the networks. You sell 8 or 9 game, technically 10 game packages to your season ticket holders. So you need something to show in August, right? There's a reason like the Bears preseason game or, any of the nationally televised preseason games are blowing out everything else on television. So I'm not just saying you can go away, but whatever's going on currently in these preseason games, because I went for a little run this morning in Hawaii and I put on a couple of my guys, Kawakami and Matt Barrows, who cover the 49ers. And they were just at this Charger 49er preseason game. And Barrows was like, I've been covering the NFL for 2.5 decades. That's as bad of a couple quarters to start that game as you'll ever see. It's because even Jim Harbaugh and Kyle Shanahan, who are old school, wired from like the 80s and the 90s, the way they think about football, don't take it seriously, let alone the McVays of the world. It's an awful product. Now, it still works. It still gets a lot of people to watch. But when you're selling these tickets as part of the package, we got to figure out a way. I don't have a solution, but I do feel like the preseason a couple years ago, once people started following McVay, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter as much. We don't need to be as dialed in. Now I feel the product is atrocious. It's just like, what the fuck are we watching here? So I don't know. I mean, could we get some of those joint practices? Could we get those on television? Something? Because I do think that would work. Whatever this preseason situation is, watching these second and third stringers in the fourth quarter, as someone that makes his living off football, who loves football, it's unwatchable. It truly is. And last but not least, when it comes to the preseason and these guys getting cut, I've been that guy that had to, back in the day, I was kind of right at the transition between playbooks, iPads. You kind of had to, by the time I was kind of moving up the, totem pole in the organization, they had both. But I've been the guy that meets the person in the training room, in the parking lot, and takes them up to the head coach, the GM's room. It sucks. I've been the guy that drives that guy to the airport or the train station when they get cut. It's a miserable experience. And as my life went on, like I've been fired a couple times, and I stand by this, and I will say this till the day I die. Sometimes these moments are the best thing that ever happened to you. And in some walks of life, when you get fired, when you go bankrupt, whatever, you never recover. And if mentally you can't get over it, you're fucked. You're going to be, and I've said these stories before. I know people that were friends with my dad, back in the 80s and the 70s. There were, society, like economic, like when it comes to the business world, can be very fickle. And things like recessions would destroy people. Some people could bounce right back because they were mentally tough. They were just willing to keep swinging, basically. They didn't know if they could, kind of build themselves back. But I think football is very similar. There have been a ton of players in the Hall of Fame who have been cut early on in their career. There are a ton of guys that go to the Pro Bowl, that become all pros, they get cut and spend time with the practice squad. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. When you're on a team and you get cut, it's not even your fault. You just weren't either given the opportunities. Honestly, with that given team, you never had a chance because of the numbers game, that these guys were already making a lot of money, that they had already slotted in you as a practice squad player before preseason even started. But if you go in with the mentality that, like, I got time on my side, and there is no sport and there is no industry where opportunities are guaranteed. I mean, guaranteed to arise, right? For a fact, even healthy teams, you don't even need to be the 49ers. Guys are going to get injured. So when you get cut and they add you to the practice squad, which is a big financial difference. I think I saw the veteran minimum. So if you're like the 53rd guy on the roster, even if you're not dressing on game day, you're going to make $850K. And if I used to say that was a shitload of money, but nowadays some of these guys with NIL, like Quinn Ewers on the practice squad, like he was making several $1,000,000. So even if he did make the 53, making $850K is, taking a pay cut. But it is what it is. But my point is, like, no one's going to feel sorry for you, even if you're not dressing on game day and you're on the 53-man roster. But being on the practice squad sucks. I mean, there's no way. You don't travel with the team for the most part. Your practice situation, you're not taking any meaningful reps. You're on the scout team, and you can be removed at any moment. But those guys consistently get added to the 53-man roster. And whether it's with your team, whether it's with another team, it's almost guaranteed to happen. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would imagine guys that start week one on the practice squad, over half get elevated throughout the course of the season. And a strong percentage of those guys become contributing players, whether it's special teams, whether it's rotation players on offense or defense, and whether by the end of the year, if there's some injuries, you become a starter. And then within a couple years, not only are you a starter, you're a high-end starter, and they give you a contract extension. So I'm sure we'll see it on Hard Knocks. Guys getting cut. It's an emotional time. You feel like you've worked your whole life. I mean, for the most part, if you're a rookie guy and you've been drafted in the 5th or 6th round and you get cut, you've never failed, right? Most of I guess now with the transfer portal, some of them have had different paths than years previous. But a lot of these guys are used to being the star guy in high school, getting 7, 8, 10 scholarship offers from all the sweet schools, putting on a hat in front of everybody, and then going on to be a good player in college. And whether you're a great NFL prospect or not, the reason you go in the 4th or the 5th round, but you're used to succeeding. And even if it's like, is it really that negative of a thing to get drafted in the 4th round? But those guys get cut. And a lot of these guys are going to get cut over the course of the next 24, 48 hours. And it's just not the end of the world. It really isn't. Honestly, it's like the start of an opportunity. Because if that team goes, I want you to be on my practice squad, and if you've done a good enough job in the preseason, every team is evaluating these players. So they go 7, 8 teams are calling you like, I want you on my practice squad as well. Because if you get cut and you pass through waivers, you can join any practice squad you want. You are not like controlled by that team. You don't have to. Let's just use the Eagles, for example. If I was on the Eagles and they drafted me in the 6th round, they cut me, I make it through waivers, I don't have to go back on the Eagles practice squad. Even if Howie wants me, I can go, let's say the Packers, let's say the Rams, let's say the 49ers call me, and I'm a wide receiver, and they go, hey, I want you on my practice squad. You look around, you're like, they got a million injuries. You go to their practice squad because you're a couple weeks away. Like, you might be their starting wide receiver. So it's just, it's a unique industry that way. Most places that when you're young and you get kicked to the curb, it's a big kick in the nuts and it sucks. And listen, I'm not saying that you're not able to be like emotionally down if you're a player. It's a tough time. It's a very unique time experience to go through, given that it's such a public job and you've always, for the most part, probably had success. But I promise you this: we're going to see so many of these guys cut over the next couple days. We're going to be hearing their names not just this season, but for seasons to come.